Hi, my name is Terry, and you're watching Terry Tells the Story. Today I'm at my mom's job, working on some landscaping tasks that need to be done around the building. My mom owns a nonprofit organization, and me and my entire family all work for her. But if you've ever worked in or around nonprofits, you know that the funding is sometimes funny. When you rely on government funding or donations from philanthropists, you never know when that funding might just dry up unexpectedly. And if the funding for your program is cut, you'll be the next person on the chopping block. It creates an environment where everyone is always a little on edge because we never know who's going to be the next victim of surprise budget cuts. That's the primary reason why I do this. I hope that one day, through making and posting these videos every single day, and never skipping a day no matter what, I can earn enough money so that my mom never has to say goodbye to anyone again. So anyways, I'm on site doing volunteer hours to take care of some landscaping tasks that need to be done around the campus. When my mom comes by and says that I should film the landscaping work that I'm doing and post it because my subscribers would really like to see it. I don't think so. I don't think anyone wants to learn about landscaping while watching me do it, but let's find out. Before the supercar, before the designer watch, there was the lawn. In medieval Europe, if you saw a man with a flat green carpet of grass, you weren't looking at a nature lover. You were looking at a baller with a massive budget. Back then, every square inch of dirt was survival. You planted cabbage to eat, herbs to heal, and wheat to trade. To have a lawn meant you were so obscenely wealthy that you could afford to let land go unused. You were telling the world that you had so much power that you could waste the very earth that kept everyone else alive. But that lawn didn't stay flat on its own. It required an army of peasants with hand scythes working from dawn to shave the grass down. It was high maintenance, designed to show that the landowner had conquered the struggle for survival. It wasn't a garden, it was a power move, built on the backs of the hungry. By the time we hit the Renaissance, the vibe had changed. It wasn't just about wasting land anymore, it was about dominance. The architects of the 15th century looked at a wild forest and saw chaos, and they hated it. They believed that if man is the center of the universe, then nature should look like a math equation. They invented topiary. They took living, breathing trees and forced them into cubes and pyramids. They built labyrinths where every turn was a calculated geometric degree. This was nature in a tuxedo. They didn't want a tree to be a tree. They wanted a tree to be a monument to human logic. If a branch grew out of place, it was wrong. Now, let's strip away the fancy gates and look at something truly authentic. Fire. Long before the shovel was invented, our ancestors were landscaping with the most destructive force on the planet. This wasn't arson, it was tactical design. Prehistoric humans understood that a thick, overgrown forest was a dead zone for snacks. So they invented firescaping, which admittedly sounds really cool. What this means is that they would burn the underbrush in a controlled line. Because they knew that 2 weeks later, tender green shoots would erupt from the ash. They were programming the landscape. They knew that deer and elk would smell the new grass and come running. They were baiting the earth. It was the first time humans realized that they didn't just have to find food, they could design the environment to bring the food to them. It was the most raw, honest form of landscaping there is, working with a cycle of death and rebirth to ensure the survival of the tribe. Finally, we have the paradise blueprint. The word paradise actually comes from the old Parisian word paradisa, which literally means a walled enclosure. Think about that. For the ancient Parisians, heaven wasn't a wide open field, it was a fortress. In the middle of a baking, lethal desert, the paradisa was a miracle. It was always designed on a chahar bag layout, which means 4 gardens. 4 streams of water represented the 4 rivers of life: water, milk, honey, and wine. It was a space designed for total sensory safety. Inside those walls, the air was 10 degrees cooler, and the smell was jasmine, not dust. It was a controlled heaven where you could finally drop your guard. To them, the desert was a fake world, a place of death and illusion, and the garden was the only place where life was real. It was the original safe space for the soul. So, the Spanish I'm going to be teaching you today is Espacio para el alma. Espacio para el alma. And what that means is space for the soul. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the most interesting parts of the history of landscaping. And if you didn't, you can blame my mom. If you did, drop a like down below. And as always, if you'd like to support this work that I do, there'll be a link to the Cash App in the description box below. We'll see you next time.